Hey guys, it's Jess and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing a video with you featuring a card with Altenew products. To get started with my card, I am doing some ink blending with Distress Oxides. I really love the finish that you get with these inks. It is more of a chalky sort of feel and it's very smooth. The blending is much easier. If you haven't tried these Distress Oxides, I would definitely give them a chance. They are definitely different from the Distress inks, and I am working on getting my collection for the Distress Oxides complete. I have all the Distress inks, but I'm still working on my oxide collection. So to get started, I used worn lipstick. And then I moved on to squeezed lemonade. I am just using the mini ink blending tool to blend on the color for my panel, and I'm blending on top of a media mat from Brutus Monroe. This is just a heat resistant mat that is good for ink blending and all sorts of things like that, similar to a craft mat. But I like the white color because I can see all the ink a little bit better, it just is nice to brighten up my work surface a little bit. I did test some ink colors on another scrap piece of paper. I ended up using my scrap piece later in this video actually, but I wanted to see how the colors worked together. I didn't really like the way that they blended for this particular order of colors, so I actually went back in with some spun sugar around the areas that I had intended to add cracked pistachio, and I added that spun sugar into the corners there. So I kind of had like a, I don't know, it reminded me of cotton candy as my background. Once I was done with my ink blending, you can see that it's not a perfect blend. It's not super smooth. It's not completely perfect, and that is okay. It really doesn't matter at all. What I'm doing is I'm using the Holtz Distress Splatter brush. I'm just spritzing some clean water onto my craft mat. It did get a little bit colored because I had some leftover ink on my mat, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter at all. What I did was I splattered that water on there, waited for a little bit for the oxidization. I'm not sure if that's the right word for that, for the oxidizing to happen, basically for the paper to start turning white where that color is kind of being leached from. And then I went ahead and with a clean paper towel and just sort of dried the excess water up. I did go ahead and cut my scrap piece using the shutter cover die from Altenew. And this was actually my very first time using this die. I thought initially that I was going to use this die as a stencil on top of my ink blended panel. However, when I put it on top, I couldn't bear to destroy it or do anything else with this card. I just felt like I needed to put it right on top and call it good. So I actually went off the rails with this card a little bit and changed my whole plan. I used some spray adhesive on the back since this is a kind of intricate die with a lot of little areas, and that worked perfectly to get a good coverage and stick it right to my ink blended panel. I mounted my card front to a white card base, which is top folding. It measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So this is an A2 sized card. And I really like the way that this vibrant color really pops against the white of the rest of the card. I like that little splotch of cracked pistachio in there as well. And I just thought it kind of reminded me of like rainbow sherbet, sort of. I don't know, it was just so soft and pretty. I really like the colors and how everything turned out. To get everything else rolling with my card, I did go ahead and pull out my mini Misty. I am using this to do some heat embossing. So what I'm doing here is just applying some powder from my anti-static powder tool. This just helps to make sure any fingerprints or oils or anything like that that I've gotten on my paper won't interfere with my heat embossing once I go ahead and put my embossing powder on there. It kind of helps make sure that all those stray powders fall right off the card when you tap it or tip the card over, and you're not left with a bunch of stray embossing powder where you don't want it. So I am actually using a gorgeous sentiment from the More Than Words stamp set from Altenew. I really love the scripty greetings in here, and they're very delicate when they do have their traditional font, the ones that are not script in there. They just go so well together. The font pairings are absolutely gorgeous, and I just love all of those, the different sentiments in there. They're very versatile, and you can use them for a whole lot of different occasions. So I I chose the one that said Simply Amazing. I really liked the way it looked, and it was a good size for a vertical card. I wanted something that wasn't too terribly long because I wanted the focus to stay on the background and that shutter cover die. I didn't want anything to distract from that, basically. So I'm using my Wagner heat tool. This is my absolute favorite. It heats up so nicely and evenly, and I get great results with my embossing now. I feel like I heat emboss on pretty much every project these days. But I have my black cardstock there, and I was going to go ahead and trim it with my paper trimmer, but I actually decided to go ahead and fussy cut it. So what I'm doing is I'm just using the scissors and cutting around my sentiment. I actually saw this technique in an Altenew video for Altenew Academy, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. And I also saw a video on the Altenew Facebook page for a live post where the gal who was doing the post itself was doing this, and I just thought it looked so elegant and pretty, and I just needed to give it a try, so here we are. But I went around the edges with my scissors, just kind of cutting out the general shape of it. I wasn't too worried about getting it perfect. If I had a die cut, that would work really well, but I didn't have one for this particular set, so fussy cutting it is. I've been doing a lot more fussy cutting lately, even though, as you guys know if you follow my channel, I really don't like to fussy cut, but I have been doing a lot more of it lately because it does add a certain amount of flair or oomph to your projects when you're able to add these little details like this. I really, really like the way that it turned out, so I'm glad that I put in the extra time to fussy cut it, and I didn't give up before I went ahead and tried it. So just finishing up with that, using that black cardstock, I did go ahead and decide to use another little piece of a sentiment. It didn't come from the same set as the More Than Words set. However, I pulled out the Halftone Everything set. I really like some of the sentiments in this because they're really great for building different kinds of sentiments. The idea behind the Halftone Everything set is that you have that big everything word, and then you can layer those other stamps or combine those other stamps with it so that you get these really cool sentiments. And I decided that I was going to take part of one of the sentiments and make it work for my card. So what I ended up using is that "you are my," it's supposed to go with the everything. So it would say "you are my everything," but I decided that I only wanted to use "you are." And then my card would say "you are simply amazing." So I went ahead and heat embossed that the same way I did with the first one, and then trimmed it down using my paper trimmer. I did go ahead and pop it up using some foam tape, and here you can see I am just trimming the last little bits of the foam tape so that I can pop up my sentiments and give them just a little bit of dimension and added interest. I really like the effect that you get from this, just being able to add a little bit more to your card instead of having it be flat or just one-dimensional. Sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of pop on there, and I like that the black really, really pops against those vibrant colors. To finish off my card, I did add a few various sizes of sequins. These are from Pretty Pink Posh, and I have been totally obsessed with these lately. So I did go ahead and get them in position where I wanted them. I hadn't put my foam in place yet, and I liked the flexibility that this gave me to be able to move things around if things weren't quite where I wanted them to go. But I used some larger sequins that were clear from Pretty Pink Posh, and then the little itty bitty ones are also from Pretty Pink Posh. They're also clear, and I really liked that these added a good amount of sparkle because I did add a ton of sequins, but it still kept the focus on my background, which I really liked, and it kept it from being too overwhelming or distracting from that background. So I used my G&K Connect glue, also have been totally obsessed with this lately, to adhere all of my sequins down. And that actually completed my card for today. So there is the finished card. You guys can see a peek of it in its photographed glory right here. And then I will have some inspiration videos linked for you at the end so that you can take a peek and see if there's anything else you might want to keep watching. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future. Hit that bell icon to be notified when I go live and when I post new videos in the future. And I hope that you guys will give this video a thumbs up and that you really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and have a great day.